everybody. Oli here for the weekly news recap for the 25th September to the 1st of October 2023. Are we going to start a little bit late? You know why. You know why. I was asleep like 10 minutes ago. That's why we started late. Anyway, let's jump into it. So, this week, while I check our audio levels, everything's okay. Okay, so this week, a couple of updates. Teardown has received a console release date. As I press all the wrong buttons. Teardown has received a console release date, so it'll be coming to PlayStation and Xbox, and I think Switch as well, later next month. However, it is also going to be launching on PS5 as part of PlayStation Plus. So if you have access to PlayStation Plus Extra, you'll be able to play Teardown at no extra cost. And I think the top secret thing is that it's just revealing what the release date is. Anyway, if you're not familiar with Teardown, it is a extraction game in such a way. But the whole locations and everything is all completely destructible. Everything is built up of just tiny voxels. Not unlike Minecraft, only even more granular if you prefer. And everything is sort of immersive simmy a little bit in how you go about destroying things. There you go, November 15th, so the middle of next month. And when it does launch, it will be part of PlayStation Plus when it does. Okay, moving on. We then have Valve has officially released Counter-Strike 2. So Counter-Strike 2 has been being teased for quite a while. It is now available to play on Steam as a free upgrade if you already had Counter-Strike 1, CSGO. One issue people have been pointing out, or people who've played it, is that it's missing some things that were part of CSGO. I imagine they will be added over time. I don't think we really need to worry about that too much. One issue I do have, though, from a game preservation standpoint, is that you can no longer access the original game. Counter-Strike Global Offensive, if you try to play it now, it will forcibly update you to Counter-Strike 2. So, from a game preservation standpoint, you can't go back, basically. And that's not great, because that's been a game that has been, like, not exactly the bedrock of multiplayer gaming, but pretty close to it, foundational in some ways. And it being inaccessible now is not good. It's not good from a game preservation, video game history standpoint. Hopefully Valve will do something about that. I'm not sure. So commercially, they probably don't want to, because they're not planning to support the original game anymore. It's kind of like everybody move on to this one now, please. So making it available, at least through Steam, I think would be against their corporate interests, if you like. Making it standalone, or possibly letting players host their own servers, maybe, in the future would be good. Right now, I'd say they're probably more focused on just getting CSGO 2, or CS2, whatever they call it, up and running, and back to parity with the original game, and so on, and then maybe after that, excuse me, they'll make the original game available. Anyway, moving on. Don't Nod's Banishers Ghost of New Eden delayed into February of next year, so it was going to be out early next month, November 7th, Mass Effect Day. It was due to release then, but as you might, if you're keeping an eye on the release schedule, you'll know all the games are coming out around then, like all of them. Every single game is coming out then. So they've decided, we don't want to release our game during all of that shit, so we're going to delay it to the 13th of February of next year. Of course, if you look ahead to the game release schedule in February, there's also a lot of games coming out then too, so you haven't exactly picked a great date to push it to, but whatever, it's been pushed out to then. So not coming out this year, coming out next year instead. Sony deletes mentions of troubled Star Wars KOTOR PS2 remake, hides the trailer. So this was kind of like earlier in the week. It had been noted. Excuse me. Like I said, I only woke up 20 minutes ago at this point. It had been noted that Sony had recently deleted a bunch of tweets that mentioned Knights of the Old Republic 2 remake, not 2, original, Knights of the Old Republic 1 remake, and had hidden the trailer from its official YouTube channel, / potentially deleted it. We don't know. They're effectively the same thing. And there was no reasoning behind it. Like, they didn't say anything or announce anything or anything like that. Not that they would, because this isn't exactly a good look. But diving further into it, Sony did eventually come back to say... as part of normal business, we delist assets with licensed music when the licenses expire. So the licensed music played during the KOTOR teaser was just your standard Star Wars music. So owned by Disney, Sony don't own it. License must have slipped. The issue there, of course, is that why would the license slip for a game that is currently in development? Surely they have the license. Of course, the issue there being that Aspyr, the developer originally behind Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, had several senior leads were let go from the project, and the following month, development of KOTOR remake shifted to Saber Interactive in Europe. Saber Interactive also owned by Embracer. So both Aspyr and Embracer are both owned by Saber. Both Aspyr and Saber Interactive are both owned by Embracer Group. Embracer Group themselves have been having, as we've noted over the last couple of weeks, financial issues, so this project's probably cancelled. Quietly. They just don't want to tell anybody. But yeah, it's not looking good. Not looking good. Ever since its announcement, honestly, it's been kind of... Anyway. The free Epic Games this week. Model Builder. Join the latest trend in simulation games. Bring out your creativity and make awesome looking models. Assemble, customize, and display your creations. Whether you're a veteran or a novice, get building and get creative. So that's like... Ever seen people put together like military models or planes or rocket ships or anything like that, and then paint them, assemble them, glue them, that kind of thing? It's like a simulator version of that. I was kind of hoping it was like a Warhammer thing, where you'd put the little dudes together and paint them, but it's not. Shame. Look, I'm very yawny today, sorry. But that's not it. There's another free game, Solstice, which we played a little bit on the channel, which I quite liked. Explore a dark world brimming with hidden mysteries, master a diverse combat system, and inhabit the dual forces of two sisters in a coming-of-age dark fantasy story with fast-paced action, vicious enemies, and spectacular boss fights. This is typically a €40 game, and it's currently, at least if you get it before Thursday, it is free on Epic, and Model Builder is typically €17-ish for the base game. The base game. I guess there's like a bunch of DLC for different models maybe that you can pick up. Solstice was a lot of fun. It's got a bit of Devil May Cry to it and a lot of Berserk to it. I quite enjoyed it. It's a bit jank, but you know, it's fine. It does the job. I recommend, especially when it's free. Anyway, moving on. Monthly games. So it is the start of a new month, which means PlayStation Plus and formerly Games with Gold, but Games with Gold is no longer a thing, so it's just going to be PlayStation Plus, I guess, from now on. PlayStation Plus monthly games for October, so we're looking at the Callisto Protocol, Farming Simulator 22, and Weird West. I think it's the definitive edition. So Callisto Protocol was meant to be a spiritual successor to Dead Space. It's even made by former Dead Space developers. You play Jacob Lee, who crash lands on the prison planet Callisto, is imprisoned in the prison for false imprisonment, that's the one. And shit goes down. There's some weird biophage thing isn't released. Everybody turns into weird monster things, and now you're trying to get it off the planet, more or less. Whereas Dead Space was a bit more of a shooter type thing, bit more Resi 4 kind of thing. Callisto Protocol is heavy melee. So do you think the Last of Us style melee, where everything's kind of messy, you're very close in? It's kind of like that, sorta. Only worse, to be honest. Callisto Protocol did okay commercially. Critically, it was kind of whatever. I think it was particularly well received. And then the Dead Space remake came out as well, which kind of just shot them in the head, more or less, because it was practically a perfect remake of the game. Farming Simulator 2022 is farming things. I honestly don't know why they release yearly versions of this, because does farming change a whole lot from one year to the next? Anyway, offers a huge variety of farming operations focusing on agriculture, animal husbandry, and forestry. Now with the exciting addition of seasonal cycles, they didn't even have seasonal cycles before this. Okay, anyway. Weird West. Weird West is an isometric immersive sim. It's made by former developers of Dishonored, as well as a couple of other games. Prey. So think of those kind of games, but from an isometric viewpoint. If you don't know what isometric is, Diablo. That not quite top down. Like it's top down, but then at an angle. Isometric. You play 5 different characters. Each character has their own special abilities. You can recruit people to help you out as well. It's got a bit of a party RPG mechanic to it. But a lot of it is just, here is a problem. Fix it. And then you have a bunch of different ways you can do it. As many different ways as you can think of. You know, guns blazing, stealth, social stealth, some other random shit I haven't even thought of. Like, there's loads of different ways of doing things. But yeah, that's PlayStation Plus for October. Callisto Protocol, Farming Simulator 22, and Weird West. We played Weird West on the channel a good while ago. Good game. Definitely recommend. Those are some of the games you can play eventually, but what if you wanted to play something right now? Well, you can play Cocoon. Cocoon is the latest puzzle game from the people behind Limbo and Inside. So as you might imagine, this is going to be very good. And from what I've seen from reviews, previews, general trends on Twitter, what have you, yeah, it is. It's very, very good. A very good puzzle game. I'm very much excited to play it myself. Just gotta wait for it to come up in rotation. But yeah, excited to give it a shot. Cocoon, as you can see, you are jumping in and out of nested worlds. You pick up the nested world, bring it somewhere else, and that nested world will change in a different way. So you've got a lot of like moving parts to keep track of in your head on how things are going to change. If I move this here, what's going to change in the world I'm carrying, and that kind of thing. So, but in addition to that, as you can see, there were like a bunch of boss fights, which were not part of really Limbo and Inside. So there's some interesting things going on there. Also, we have After Dream. After Dream was shown off during the Feardemic or the Black Summer or whatever it was called. It was a showcase a couple of weeks ago that was showing off a bunch of horror-related titles. After Dream is a person... Hey Moen, how you getting on? Happy Sunday. After Dream is somebody regaling their therapist with their dreams, effectively, and they're not very nice dreams. You might call them nightmares. It's a point-and-click puzzle thing that has like scariness to it. I won't go too much further into the story, mostly because it's pretty heavy story-wise. But from what I have seen, it's pretty well received. It's a bit short, I think, is kind of the general consensus. But it is available now on PlayStation, PC, I'm not sure, Xbox. I think it's on Switch as well. Not entirely sure, though. Then we have El Paso Elsewhere. El Paso Elsewhere is a homage to old PS1 shooters, specifically Max Payne. It's very noir. It's very gritty. You'll notice there's no cover shooting. There's no running into a corner and letting your health, come back. You need to just get in there and shoot. And keep moving, diving, duck, dip, dodge, dive, etc. The story, I think, is you are going after your girlfriend who has become Lord of the Vampires or something. She's about to bring about the end of the world. And you're not sure if you want to just get her back or if you want to stop her, I think is the gist of it. But hopefully you'll figure it out by the time you get there, kind of thing. We played a little bit of it during Steam Next Fest a couple of months ago. It's very good. I would very much recommend. And then we have... So this is a little bit different. It's technically not out. So this is an early access game. Has just launched in early access. This is Fortune's Run. Something else we played during Steam Next Fest. I struggled with it. I really liked it, but I struggled with it to play it because I'm just not used to mouse and keyboard. And this game very much relies on mouse and keyboard. But it is an immersive sim by an indie developer. You are playing a mercenary who has just retrieved some important information from a space station. That's what this mission is, just showing off here. And when you get back home, shit has gone to shit, basically. And you're trying to survive, etc., etc. It's got a lot of really cool mechanics, really cool combat, stealth mechanics, shooting mechanics. Really good stuff. Hopefully they'll have controller support during their early access, I'm hoping. Anyway, I would encourage you to give it a look. I think there's a demo available for it as well. Right. Unfortunately, it is now time to talk about the worst parts of video games. Video game industry. So, praise the Lord. Praise whoever it is you pray to. Jim Ryan is retiring from PlayStation. Thank God. Everyone liked this. They'll be retiring at the end of this year. Although more specifically, it's the end of this tax year. So it's March of next year, really. And Sony Group Corporation President, COO, and CFO. That's a lot of jobs. Does he get 3 different salaries? You bet he does. Hiroki Totoki. I arrived for the juicy part just in time. Hiroki Totoki, who has a rhyming name, so you know he's good. He'll be taking on interim CEO roles when Jim Ryan fucks off, finally. But he won't be taking over the CEO role. Yeah, CEO role proper. They will be looking for somebody to take that on. Ryan is a 30-year veteran of PlayStation. You think he would know better than this weird pivot to live service shit that he tried to implement, but apparently he didn't. All the way up to PS5, looked over the PSP, PS Vita stuff. He was head of Sony Europe for a good while, and then he was made CEO of Sony proper. The reason he gave for retiring only after 4 years in the job, too many years if you ask me, I found it increasingly difficult to reconcile living in Europe and working in North America. So he's tired of having to fly, I guess, all the time. Or maybe he's sick of doing Zoom calls, who knows? And then there's a bunch of well-wishing, yada yada, he was great for Sony, something, something, something. No, he wasn't. They're too polite to say otherwise. Anyway, and we have this. Sony's live service pivot may not pay off the way Jim Ryan had once hoped, say Industry Insider. So this is from an article by Jason Schreier for Bloomberg. I will show you the article. It is paywalled, so you may or may not be able to get in, depending on how many Bloomberg articles you've already read today. I have not read any, so we should be good. Well, I guess we'll find out. So, why PlayStation fans are cheering CEO's departure. So this is from Jason Schreier, who has announced it. I think he broke the news that Jim Ryan was going to be retiring. But news this week of the retirement of Jim Ryan evoked an odd reaction from gamers. Raucous cheering. It's like, thank fucking God he's gone. When I broke the news of Ryan's departure, I was mildly surprised to see a barrage of celebratory gifs and memes from PlayStation fans declaring that they were thrilled to see him go. It is not typical that gamers would even be really aware of CEOs all that often, so the fact that they were, 1, knew who he was, and 2, were happy to see the back of him suggests he maybe was not doing such a great job. So, some reasons behind that maybe. So, the biggest one, maybe not the biggest one, but certainly the one that certainly put him on the radar for, wow, fuck this guy, was when he remarked during a showcase for the new Gran Turismo. They had all the other Gran Turismos playing side by side, or playable side by side, and he remarked, for the old PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games, they looked ancient. Why would anybody play this? I don't know, Jim. Why would anybody want to play the back catalogue of PlayStation? Games they grew up with, the history of video games. Why would anybody want to do that? This might suggest why Sony have been so reluctant to open their back catalogue, because Jim Ryan. He also claimed people had never played games before PlayStation in the Middle East, which was very much not true. They very much had a very substantial video game community back then. Hey, Banana, how you getting on? So that was just straight up a lie. Then, after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in the US, that's the abortion stuff in the Supreme Court, where it's now illegal again, instead of coming out in, solidarity with female employees, colleagues, what have you, like a lot of other video game developers, publishers did at the time. He instead said, no, we need to see both sides of this argument, you guys. You know, let's all just get along and do the job that I'm paying you to do. Not very well. Was not taken great, as you might imagine. But probably the biggest issue, and certainly the biggest issue I have had, is the closing of a lot of Japanese developers. The pivot away from Japan in general. You might note most of Sony's first-party games the last 5-ish years or so have all been Western-developed games. You know, the only real first-party games they've had have been timed console exclusives like Death Stranding or Final Fantasy. They're not first-party titles. They just have an exclusivity agreement because they happen to be Japanese developed. So that was a shift away from that. It was a shuttering of Japan Studio, people behind Shadow of the Colossus, Ico, Last Guardian, those guys. The pivot away from creative games. When was the last time you saw a Parappa the Rapper type? No? When was the last time you saw a Vib Ribbon type game from Sony? Anything like that. And then, of course, the ridiculous shift to games as a service, where they bought Bungie and just said, hey, Bungie, fix our whole revenue stream, please. Thanks. Even though you're struggling to do it for your own game. Do it for ours instead. So right now, Sony have 12 or something live service games currently in production. They expect you apparently to play all 12 of them, I guess, because that's how live service games work. They're games you just play constantly, over and over and over. Constant revenue stream of like tiny little mini microtransactions. That's a lot. Yeah, it's too many. Now, vast majority of them have not been announced. A lot of that is guesswork, just from we haven't heard what developers are working on. We know Guerrilla Games are working on a Horizon Zero Dawn multiplayer thing. We know Naughty Dog are working on a Last of Us multiplayer thing. We know Jade Raven Studio, Haven Studios are working on something. I keep getting the name of this game wrong. It ends in a $sign anyway. I forget what it is. It's some weird extraction shooter thing that was extremely disappointing when it was announced. We don't know what Sucker Punch are doing. Insomniac are probably going to move on to Wolverine. But there's a bunch of other studios they've acquired, and we just have no idea what they're working on. But we did hear that Sony have announced we have 12 live service games in development currently. So I was like, okay, I guess that's what they're fucking working on. So, but with him gone, insiders in Sony have told Jason Schreier that they are uncomfortable with the pivot for some of Sony's studios. Because these studios have spent the last decade building out teams of experienced developers to make big cinematic solo games, now they're being asked to move on to these weird live service titles. Probably not going to turn out too well. Just ask the people who made Anthem. That'll be BioWare. BioWare best known for their single-player, really good, story-driven, character-driven games, were then asked to make a weird live service thing, and wouldn't you know, it fucking bombed. Probably going to be the end of BioWare games because of it as well. But no, instead of just having one studio fuck everything up, Jim Ryan decided, let's have all of our studios fuck it up. Instead. This bet on multiplayer games may not pay off the way Ryan and his team had once hoped, mostly because the live service bandwagon is gone. It's way down the road at this point. It's actually about to just shut down entirely. Fortnite is not making the money it used to make. People who are into that whole live service grind thing have found their game. They've put in a lot of time into whatever it is, Genshin Impact, Fortnite, Destiny, World of Warcraft, whatever it is. Whatever game as a service, they have put in however many years of money or time or grind or whatever it is into it. They are not going to just jump ship now. Unless your game is unput-downable, which is unlikely because the live service games don't work like that. They want you to play for a little bit and then come back tomorrow and play for a little bit and then come back tomorrow and play for a little bit and so on. They don't want you to just binge the whole thing. So, yeah, with him gone, maybe we'll see them pivot back to actual good games for a change. I doubt it. Anyway, moving on. At least he's gone. Right. that was the good news. The good news is Jim Ryan is gone. The rest of this is bad news. as is the usual for industry bullshit, the rest of this is bad news. Epic laying off more than 800 employees, including people from Mediatonic. Those are developers of Fall Guys. So roughly 16% of the company, Epic are planning to lay off, including the sale of music storefront Bandcamp, as well as their youth marketing company Super Awesome. For a while now, we, the royal we, of course, been spending way more money than we earn investing in the next evolution of Epic and growing Fortnite as a metaverse-inspired ecosystem for our creators. Maybe don't do that. There's a thought. How about don't spend the money doing that? How about leave it doing what it was doing? I had long been optimistic that we could power through this transition without layoffs, but in retrospect, I see that that was unrealistic. I made a mistake, and I went all in on this stuff, so I'm firing you instead. Tim, hang on, you were doing all right there. I wasn't quite on board at the beginning, but I was going with it, but then you fucked up, right? So you can fuck off instead, no? Or take a salary cut, or sell some of your shares, or something? No? No, fire 800 people who had nothing to do with it. Okay, got it. Right, that makes sense. Capitalism. Got it. Epic will pay 6 months severance to all employees, 6 months of healthcare for people in the US, Canada, and Brazil. I guess that's something, but still, you fucked up. You should be the one to, eat shit here, not the people who had absolutely nothing to do with it. Fall Guys developer Mediatonic are among the mass layoffs at Epic. Apparently this will not affect development on Fall Guys. I don't see how it won't, unless you're firing like one dude. And even then, whatever work that one dude was doing isn't going to get done. So yeah, this is bullshit, for one. Epic are making billions, that's what it'd be, dollars, every year, mostly from Fortnite. They have their own store, revenue sharing that they are doing weird shit in, right? Now, the free games every week is great from a consumer standpoint. Sure, I like getting free games. That's great. But some of those are like, we just saw this week, Solstice, €40, usually, and they're just giving it away for free. They should share a bit of that money with us. Well, funny you should say that. There was a class action lawsuit that went through last week for anybody who accidentally bought skins or V-Bucks in Fortnite because of the way they have their store engineered for you to accidentally buy things. You can petition to have them pay you back, but I think it's a US only thing, so I don't know, Banana. If you're based in the US, you might be able to get like $2 or something off Epic. Anyway, they're giving away those games for free. They're also trying to monopolize the PC market by changing their revenue sharing stuff to like 95% to 5%, 80% to 20%, stuff like that. They're trying to like forego revenue entirely if you decide to be exclusive to Epic Games Store. Like there's loads of places where they're just throwing money away, where other developers, other publishers would be keeping it as a revenue stream. $2 from Epic, oh my god. Accidentally is like, I just want to preview the skin and then oops, I've actually bought it. Wow, fuck you, Epic. That's not what I wanted to do. You set up the shop in such a way that people accidentally buy things. Anyway, dark patterns and what have you. Not only that, Epic are a privately run company, so we don't know the salaries of Tim Sweeney, Executive Suite, and what have you. So when I said he should sell shares, obviously he can't because it's not a publicly traded company. But he could definitely take a cut to his salary, I would imagine, because we're talking billions of dollars here. And they're owned by Tencent, so that's, Chinese government money as well, if you believe the rumors and what have you. But hey, where are they gonna make up this shortfall, right? Because they've laid off people, but they're also spending too much money, so they need to make up some money, right? So hey, let's raise the price of V-Bucks for Fortnite. Virtual currency will be more expensive in a number of countries, including the US. So, Epic Games has announced plans to increase the price of Fortnite V-Bucks and some real money content packs. So, the cost for V-Bucks is going up for about $1 everywhere. 1,000 V-Bucks for $9 instead of $8, and so on. Some of them are jumping by more than $10. There's a whole breakdown of it there if you're really interested. Here's the thing. V-Bucks are, what do you call it? A transitionary currency, right? An intermediary currency. You buy the V-Bucks and then you use the V-Bucks to buy skins or whatever in Fortnite. the whole way they have gotten around the whole gambling thing for loot crates and loot boxes and what have you is them saying that no, this is worthless. This currency isn't worth anything, you know, or these skins aren't worth anything, etc., etc. They're just in-game things, and you can't sell them on. So obviously, we don't need to be regulated. Don't regulate us, please. And obviously, it is clear that even though it's apparently not worth anything, they are still subject to inflation, which is weird. If they're worthless, how are they somehow subject to inflation and economic pressures and what have you? But I'm sure that will make up the shortfall, right? On us spending too much money trying to make Epic exclusive. That'll do it. Anyway, hey, we just laid off a bunch of people and claimed we were, you know, spending too much, and we're actually really just keeping more of the revenue for ourselves. It would be really bad if we brought out that, you know, share the wealth emote in Fortnite this week. That would be bad, right? That would look really bad for us. Oh, we did? Oh, shit. Oh, no. Fortnite Share the Wealth emote went back up sale on the Battle Royale's in-game shop later today, or later the day that they just fired almost 900 people. So Share the Wealth, if you're not familiar with, is just your character throws cash in the air, basically. The emote was then removed from the Epic Store. Actually, they removed the entire daily rotation tab in general, so I guess they couldn't figure out how to remove just the one emote, so they went, oh fuck, get rid of that whole thing. We don't need this press. When contacted about why they did that, the emote was taken down when we realized the mistake. When we realized the mistake roughly 1 hour after going live. What mistake? What was the mistake? Was it bad to put that emote up? Was it an error to put the entire daily rotation tab up that day? Was it? Or was the mistake being like we just fired a bunch of people and now we're throwing it in their face with the cash thing? Kotaku then goes to point out that there's been a bunch of acquisitions this year, expansions on Epic, other business initiatives that obviously most people had, you know, no say in. Certainly the people who were getting fired had no say in. Epic bought Bandcamp this year in March, and now they're selling it. All that money you spent on acquiring Bandcamp probably could have paid the salary of those 800 people. Why did you buy Bandcamp? What was the point? Why did you bother? Anyway, is the people who make the mistakes don't actually suffer the consequences of it. It's the people who had nothing to do with it. They suffer the consequences instead. You know, that kind of punishment is actually a war crime. Mass punishment for one person's mistake is considered a war crime. But not in the corporate world. Anyway, moving on. Creative Assembly responds to news of Hyena's cancellation. So, Sega, earlier this week, have decided to cancel Hyenas. Hyenas was going to be a multiplayer PvP extraction thing, based in space, as you can see. Or based on a space station, rather. They decided to end development of the game just days after its recent closed beta. I guess they didn't like the results of the closed beta, or they were planning to do it anyway, who knows. But that has obviously had repercussions on Creative Assembly, who were responsible for development, so they have lost a big project that they would have been expecting to get a decent chunk of revenue out of, or be paid by Sega for doing well, or what have you. It was going to be a live service thing, so they might have been having like a regular revenue injection to the studio. That's not going to happen anymore. They didn't even get a chance to put the game out. Sega went, nah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But they are going to worry about it because obviously that means they're going to have to let a bunch of people go because they can't pay for them anymore. Again, a decision made by somebody else. They're not going to suffer the consequences of it. Anyway, Creative Assembly are going to have to lay people off. They're going to do their best to do severances and so on and probably help them, you know, find jobs elsewhere in the company. But again, that's another decision by somebody in a suit who won't actually have to suffer the consequences of it. Not even part of the company. Anyway, Saga after talks with game companies failed to reach an agreement. This is following a 98% decision to strike, which is significant, right? So Saga after for the video game voiceover people, voice acting. Saga SAG-AFTRA in general is just the Actors Guild, but it does encompass voice acting, and it does encompass performance capture, performance acting for video games. So if you've ever seen like the mocap stuff, anything from Last of Us, Spider-Man, stuff like that, for their cutscenes, like SAG-AFTRA people are all underneath that umbrella. So they were going through negotiations with developers and publishers such as Activision, Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Take-Two, Insomniac, Warner Brothers. I'm still not sure why it's Insomniac specifically and not Sony, but whatever. About a potential successor to the Interactive Media Agreement, which is something they have been working on over the pandemic mostly, and it was supposed to be renegotiated last year. They elected to extend it because discussions were still ongoing. So they said, okay, we'll agree to extend this particular agreement until we can come to a new agreement. They have now concluded scheduled negotiations for this new deal, but no deal was reached, and the current agreement will remain in effect while the parties make final efforts to reach a deal. However, there has been a 98% voting in favor of potential strike action. So if a strike is to go ahead, they have 98% approval from union members. Which is like, yeah, okay. We're going to strike at the drop of a hat, more or less. People are pissed about it. What do the union want? Why is there issues with negotiating? Why can't they stay on the same agreement? What have you? So the union is asking for wage increases that account for inflation. Makes sense, because if you don't have a wage increase that accounts for inflation, you have effectively taking a pay cut. Why would you do that? You're doing the exact same amount of work. You should be getting the exact same amount of pay, right? Anyway, rest periods for on-camera performers. The issue here is that there's a lot of crunch in development anyway, and that also applies to performance capture. They're just doing scene after scene after scene after scene. They're not getting a rest, basically. They're like, no, we have you here for 8 hours and you're going to work for 8 hours kind of thing. Set medics to be present during stunt work. Currently, that's not a given. It's not a given that there'll be, medical response available if something goes wrong. People to interject to say, hey, they need a rest, or we need to tend to their injury or something like that. And protection against the unregulated use of AI in voice acting, among other things. AI and generative systems like that are getting decent enough at replicating somebody's voice that they could be, swapped in for a known voice actor. You get an AI bot that can do Troy Baker's voice. Now Troy Baker's out of a job, kind of thing. They just want to guard against that, that you're not going to either take their performance capture and then use that to train a model for AI, and then they can just have the AI pump out animations instead of having the actor back to do the animations and stuff like that. Same for voice, same for anything like that. This is in keeping with what WGA, the Writers Guild of America, came off against Hollywood. Same deal, that you wouldn't use generative AI to make scripts and stuff like that, which they won. And SAG-AFTRA proper Actors Guild and so on are going to be looking to do much the same thing, that you won't use their likenesses in CG, and you won't use CG to do like AI performances and stuff like that. But that's ongoing currently. We'll see how that turns out. A 98% vote to strike doesn't necessarily mean there'll be one. It seems likely, but it doesn't necessarily mean there'll be one. Negotiations are still going. They haven't reached a deal yet, but they haven't decided to stop negotiating, so we'll see. Anyway, finally, Hideki Kamiya is leaving Platinum Games. So if you're not familiar with Hideki Kamiya or Platinum Games make either incredibly good games or incredibly bad games. Nothing in between. It's one or the other. I don't know how they manage it. It's either, oh my god, best game ever, or Jesus Christ, why am I still playing this game? It's always one or the other. I don't know how they manage it. This took a lot of consideration based on my own beliefs, and he does say he'll continue to be making video games. It doesn't say who it'll be with. Hideki Kamiya is probably best known for directing Resident Evil 2. It's one of the best Resident Evils. The original Devil May Cry. I think he was a producer maybe on Devil May Cry 3. I'm not sure. Again, very good series that I really, really like. And then he jumped over to Clover Studio, where he was a director for Okami. Incredible game. And Beautiful Joe, also incredible game. When he joined Platinum, when he joined as their senior creative, he oversaw Bayonetta and Astral Chain. Bayonetta also great series, and Astral Chain is a really good game that not enough people play. It's very good. It's the fact that it's on the Switch is probably the reason why. Anyway, he was then promoted to vice president, and my guess is he's not close enough to development now that he'd like to be. You know, he's too busy at meetings and like talking about quarterly profits and shit like that. And he's like, I just want to make a game where people flip around the place and hit people with swords. Why can't I? Can I go back to doing that, please? I imagine that is his issue. But again, he didn't say. He was very diplomatic about what he was talking about. He's like, I love working with Platinum Games. I learned a lot. I'm glad it's in a good place where I can leave it now, yada, yada, yada. He is doing well enough that he's, like, independently, you know, financially secure. Like, he doesn't necessarily need to work anymore. But he does strike me as somebody who will just keep doing what he loves. So hopefully we'll see him pop up somewhere else soon and see what he's working on then. Anyway, that was our news. So we're going to leave... We'll leave Cocoon to play in the background, because it is allegedly a very good game. Anyway, that was our news for the 25th of September to the 1st of October, 2023. So from our updates, Teardown will be launching middle of November for consoles. PlayStation and Xbox. I don't think it's on Switch, but I'm not sure. It will also be launching day one as part of PlayStation Plus. Don't know about Game Pass. I think it is, but I'm not sure. Don't Nods, Banished Just Goes to New Eden has been delayed into February, so it's not going to be out in November anymore. CSGO 2, or CS2, Counter-Strike 2, has launched. It has unfortunately replaced CSGO, so if you still wanted to play the original, you can't anymore, which isn't great from a game preservation standpoint. I was looking forward to that one. Well, you just have to wait for February now. You'll have to wait till Valentine's Day, basically. The day before Valentine's Day is when it's announced, or when it's released. I figured they would have done Valentine's Day, you know, because it's kind of a love story as well. Valentine's Day must be a weekend, though, next year. Anyway. PlayStation Plus games for October, Callisto Protocol, Farming Simulator 22, and Weird West. So that's 2 really good games, and Callisto Protocol. No, Callisto Protocol is fine. It's an alright game. Not amazing. It's fine. Farming Simulator, I don't know. If you're super into farming stuff, I guess, sure, knock yourself out. And then Weird West is a really good immersive sim. It's a really good isometric game. So think of stuff like, kind of unlike Baldur's Gate and stuff like that, but it's not really that level of RPG. It's not like dice rolling and stuff like that. It's a lot more like something like Dishonored, but played from a isometric perspective. And think of it that way instead. New releases, you can see Cocoon playing here. It's the latest game from the minds behind Limbo and Inside. So as you imagine, it's going to be a very good puzzle game. We also have After Dream, which is a point-and-click, somewhat horror title. We have El Paso Elsewhere, which is a homage to Max Payne, effectively. So it is an old PS1 jumping, slow-mo, dodge, duck, dip, dive, dodge game, which we played during Steam Next Fest. It was very good. Fortune's Run has entered early access, which is another game we played during Steam Next Fest. It's a really good indie immersive sim. Definitely recommend giving it a shot. Oh, but if you are like me and you're absolutely useless with keyboard and mouse, maybe give it a few months. Maybe they'll give you controller support. But if you're good on keyboard and mouse, it's a good game. You should give it a look. Up to you if you want to jump in on early access or wait for the full release, though. I typically don't, but I am considering it. If they ever do announce controller support, I'll be in straight away. News: Jim Ryan, Witch is dead. Thank God. Jim Ryan is retiring from PlayStation in March of next year. Who is going to replace him as CEO? We don't know. Sony do typically promote from within, so usually it is somebody from the company is just risen up and promoted into the job. That is how they usually do it, unlike a lot of other companies that sort of airdrop a CEO in from another, hire a CEO effectively. We don't know who will replace them. Hopefully whoever does replace them understands the appeal of the PlayStation brand, which is Japanese games. That's what we want. That was the whole reason people bought PS1s in the first place. It was because you could get really cool Japanese games. Really cool and really creative stuff. It wasn't Nintendo first party things. Obviously, you couldn't get that from PlayStation, but you could get some really interesting things. Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII, Gran Turismo, Vib Ribbon, Parappa the Rapper, Crash Bandicoot. There's a lot. Okay, that's not Japanese, but still. Really cool, really creative games. You would never see any of them under Jim Ryan. Not a single one. Even Final Fantasy VII wouldn't make it. Too weird. Too weird looking for him. He wouldn't like it. Too many polygons. Too many sharp edges. Tomb Raider was PlayStation as well. Soul Reaver. Fuck. So many good games on PS1. And you wouldn't see any of them under him. Anyway, he's gone now. Thank God. Hopefully whoever replaces him understands that nobody wants games as a service anymore. After that, Epic fired 18% of their staff, or will be firing at them. It's not clear if it's actually happened already. And the people responsible for the mistakes and acquisitions that they then sold less than 6 months later, just continue to keep their job. That's fine. That makes me feel good about the state of the world. Hideki Kamiya is leaving Platinum Games, which is sad. Platinum Games have a lot of really good games that I liked. Bayonetta, Astral Chain. They're also responsible for Nier Automata. I have the tattoo, Nier Automata. That's sad. Kamiya's leaving, but I get it. If it's the reason I thought, which is he's sick of sitting in a boardroom and he wants to actually go back to making games. But yeah, that's not great. Anyway, that's your news for this week. But what is happening on the channel? So here is our roadmap thing for the remaining part of the year. As you can see, there are now some gaps. This kind of red-blue square thing. That is for games that have been delayed into next year. So obviously they're not going to make the cut for this year. As well as some games that turned out to be kind of shit. So I don't want to play them. So yeah, they're gone now. Anyway, currently in progress, we have Final Fantasy 16. Monster Hunter apparently is still in progress, even though I haven't played it in a good while. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis we started this week, and Final Fantasy 2 that I didn't get to this week, but we did start it last week. So those are the games that are currently in progress. Coming up soon, Resident Evil Code Veronica will follow Nemesis. Honkai Star Rail we will play a bit of. I am not sure if we're going to do a full playthrough of it, because that's a big game. It's also a live servicey type thing, and I don't really want to showcase those things. But I do like Genshin Impact. I don't recommend it to anybody, because gotcha, random loot box shit. But I do like it though. Don't see Inscription anywhere. We'll have to put it up somewhere, I suppose. I don't think I'll have time. To be honest, we are not going to get to all of these games. let's just put it out there. We're not going to get to all of them. They're planned, but it's more of a case of what am I arsed playing right now. And then Final Fantasy 3 will follow Final Fantasy 2, as you might imagine. Anyway, Foley plays games a bit, so these are the current standings from our random choice spinning wheel thing. Liza P is in there. I'm hoping to get to it, but Armored Core 6 is also in there, and I'm also hoping to get to that, so I don't know, I get to one of them. So currently sitting at the top is Sprawl, followed by My Friendly Neighborhood, Spirit on the Mouse are both on +5, Bomber Cyberpunk, Viewfinder are both on +4, Eternights and No Sun to Worship are both on +2. No Sun to Worship is new to the list. It is a kind of short stealth game made by a solo dev. It's got a really interesting art style, and it's kind of about how the theft and hoarding of art makes it difficult for humanity to progress and stuff like that. It's got a weird esoteric theme to it, which I'm kind of interested in. And On Guard is also sitting on a +2. They're both good games. I know. I gotta figure out which one to jump into. Underground Blossom is a point-and-click adventure thing set in an underground London kind of thing. Smushy Come Home is a bit like Little Gator Game, except instead of playing a little gator, you're playing a little mushroom. But it's a very similar type of game. And El Paso Elsewhere we talked about earlier earlier in the show. It's the homage to Max Payne kind of thing that we played a little bit of in Steam Next Fest, but I would like to play more of the full game, of the early game stuff. Anyway, Sprawl is sitting on the top, so Sprawl is what we'll be playing this week on Friday. So Sprawl, if you don't remember, we had a quick look at it when the game came out, just the trailer. It is a first-person boomer shooter type thing, but art direction is really interesting, and it does have a really interesting traversal locomotion mechanic going for it. This trailer seems to be entirely just how the game looks. Anyway, you can see there's a lot of like wall kicks and wall running and stuff like that, which obviously you could not do in stuff like Doom and Duke Nukem and what have you. But there's also no aim down sights or anything like that. So I'm interested to give it a shot. It's also solo developer, so this is a lot of really impressive work by one person. Anyway, we'll be taking a look at that on Friday. So the schedule coming up then: Tuesday, Final Fantasy 16. I have completed as many side quests as I possibly can. Now, there's one or two that we can't do right now because the enemies are too high level for us, so we have to wait. So we're going to do some story stuff for Final Fantasy 16. Wednesday, we'll continue Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, possibly finish it. Maybe. Resident Evil Nemesis is a short game. And we're already at the clock tower, so it's possible we'll finish it. On Thursday, we'll continue Final Fantasy 2. I honestly don't remember where we are in the story. I think we're going after the Dreadnought to try to take it down. But that's as far as I remember. Sprawl, as I just said, we'll take a look at that on Friday as part of Fully Plays Games a Bit. And then back to Final Fantasy 16. Probably another... If we finish the story segment that I think we're doing, because I haven't played the game, so I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. But if we finish that segment, I have a feeling a bunch more side quests will just get thrown onto the map. So that's probably what we'll spend the time doing on Saturday. As you might have noticed, there hasn't been a Fully Fables in a while. And the reason for that is I will be on holiday soon-ish, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. So I don't want to start a new game and then have to take a big break and then come back to it. So the plan is we're going to finish off these games. So Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 2, Resident Evil 3. That should take us up to when I'm on break. If it's not, we'll just do a bunch of Fully Plays games for a bit instead. And then when I come back, we'll just start all brand new games. But anyway, that is the plan for this week. Right. That's your news. That's your channel update for the 25th September, 1st of October, 2023. Thanks for dropping by, Melwin and Taquito Banana. It's good to see you both. Thanks for keeping me company, even though we started late. And you know why? You know, because I was asleep. I was asleep. Hang on, how long has the stream been going? 54-ish minutes. I was asleep an hour ago, which is basically it. Anyway, I may be back later today, as I did say yesterday's stream, that I might stream a bit more Monster Hunter. I am playing through Forspoken offline, off stream, right now, doing a platinum grind for it, and the grind is real. I am, as usually that what happens when we have a game that requires a significant grind for the platinum. I hate the game now. But I'm too close to the platinum to stop, so I'm gonna get it. But that does mean I need a new big game to play. So I'm gonna try to free up a bit more space for Monster Hunter. So we'll stream a bit of that hopefully later today. If not, I don't know, I'll fit some time in for it at some point. Anyway, possibly I'll see you later today. Melwin in the chat, I believe, is streaming more Citizen Sleeper today. Citizen Sleeper is a very good tabletop RPG, effectively, in a video game skin, where you play a newly arrived refugee cyborg type thing on the run from the company, trying to live your life while also staying under the radar, and you have to take on odd jobs for people that may not necessarily have your best interests in heart, and it's good. It's good shit. Anyway, I would suggest you drop over there at around 8 o'clock. Twitch.tv/Mel126. Right, I'm gonna head off. Have a good rest of your day, and possibly see you in Mel1's chat later, or in my chat for Monster Hunter, or in my chat for Final Fantasy 16 on Tuesday. Something, I don't know. I'll see you at some point. Right. Bye.